3 weeks after they buried Nolan, the house was still full of casseroles. Neighbors brought them. Church friends brought them. Women Evelyn had known for 30 years showed up at the door with foil-covered dishes and soft voices and eyes that could not quite meet hers. She thanked every single one of them. She put the dishes in the refrigerator. She forgot to eat most of them. That was grief. Not the dramatic kind. Not the kind that made you collapse in the grocery store or scream into a pillow. The quiet kind. The kind that sat beside you at the kitchen table every morning while you made coffee for one instead of two and did not say a word. Evelyn had been married to Nolan Marsh for 44 years. 44 years of his coffee mug on the left side of the counter. 44 years of his reading glasses left on the arm of the sofa. 44 years of his voice calling her name from another room just to know she was there. Now the coffee mug sat where she left it. The glasses were in a drawer she had not opened, and the house was so quiet she could hear the clock in the hallway ticking from every room. She was 67 years old. She had raised 2 children, buried her mother and her father, survived a breast cancer scare at 53, and taught 3rd grade for 28 years. She had seen things. She had been through things. She was not a fragile woman, but grief has a way of finding the cracks even in the strongest walls. And in those first weeks, Evelyn let it. She sat with it. She did not fight it, and she did not rush it. Nolan had always said that the things worth feeling were worth feeling all the way through. So she felt it, all the way through. It was a Tuesday morning when she first noticed something was wrong. Not dramatically wrong, nothing she could point to and name. Just a feeling. A shift in the air. The kind of thing that 35 years of teaching children had trained into her bones. When a classroom feels different before you can see why. When something has changed and nobody has said so yet. Walter called that morning. Her son, 44 years old. Broad shoulders like his father, but different eyes. Nolan's eyes had always been open. Walter's eyes, even when he was smiling, looked like they were calculating something just behind the warmth. She had pushed that thought away for years. He was her son. You do not think that way about your son. But that Tuesday morning, the thought came back, and this time she let it stay. Walter called and asked how she was doing. She said she was managing. He said he was glad. Then, after exactly the right amount of time, after exactly the right number of caring words, he said it. "Mom, I have been thinking about the house, about the paperwork. You should not have to deal with all of that alone. I want to help you sort through things," she said. "That is sweet of you, Walter." She said it the way she used to say things to children in her classroom who had given the wrong answer but were trying gently, without revealing anything. After she hung up, she sat very still at the kitchen table. She picked up her coffee cup, set it down, looked out the window at the garden Nolan had planted 20 years ago and tended every season until the season he could not anymore. She thought about what Nolan used to say. "Evelyn, when something feels wrong, it usually is. The question is not whether to trust that feeling. The question is what to do with it." She did not know yet what to do with it. So she did what Nolan had always advised. She went still. She listened. She waited. The answer, he always said, would come. What she did not know, sitting at that kitchen table on that Tuesday morning, was that the answer was already on its way. That it had been on its way for a long time. That Nolan, even from wherever he was now, had seen this coming before she had. She did not know that yet, but some part of her, the deep quiet part that does not speak in words, already did. The calls from Walter continued, every 2 or 3 days, always warm, always caring. always ending with a gentle question about the house, about the finances, about whether she had looked at the paperwork yet. Evelyn answered each call the same way. Warm, grateful, non-committal. She had learned something in 44 years of marriage and 28 years of teaching. The most important information rarely comes from what people say. It comes from the pattern of what they say, the rhythm of it, the timing of it. Walter's rhythm was off. A son calling his grieving mother every few days. That was love. But the way every call circled back to the same subjects, that was something else. That was a man with an agenda wearing the clothes of concern. She did not say this to anyone. She simply noted it, filed it away, the way she used to file away the small things in her classroom, the child who was always hungry by 10 in the morning, the one who flinched when voices were raised, the things that did not seem like much on their own, but told a whole story when you held them together. The second thing she noticed was Gloria. Her sister, 64 years old, 8 years younger than Evelyn. They had grown up in the same house, fought over the same bathroom, shared the same mother's attention and the same father's silences. The one who cried at commercials and laughed too hard at jokes and never could hide what she was feeling, which was exactly why Evelyn noticed. Gloria started coming by more often, 3 times in 2 weeks, which was 3 more times than she had visited in the previous 2 months. She brought food. She sat and talked. She asked questions about how Evelyn was sleeping, whether she had been to the doctor, whether she needed anything. All of this was normal. All of this was what a loving sister did. But the other questions were not. Small questions slipped in between the caring ones. Questions about the garden, which Gloria had never shown interest in before. Questions about the car, about whether Evelyn was still comfortable driving. Questions that circled slowly and carefully around the edges of something larger. Evelyn watched her sister the way she used to watch children who were keeping a secret, not with suspicion, with patience, with the understanding that the truth was already there. It just had not surfaced yet. One afternoon, after Gloria had been talking for an hour, Evelyn set down her teacup and looked at her sister directly. "Gloria," she said, "how is Walter doing?" The pause lasted less than a second. Half a second, maybe. A flicker. A tiny hesitation before Gloria said, "He is fine, I think." "Why?" That half second said everything. Evelyn smiled, refilled Gloria's cup, changed the subject. She did not confront her sister. She did not ask the question she was really asking, because she understood something about Gloria that Walter had understood too. Gloria was not a bad person. Gloria was a frightened person. And frightened people, when pushed, run toward whoever makes them feel safe, even if that person is not safe at all. So Evelyn let her sister talk, let her ask her small, circling questions. Let the visit end the way it had started, warmly, with hugs at the door and promises to call soon. And after Gloria's car had backed out of the driveway and disappeared down the road, Evelyn stood at the kitchen window for a long time. Something was moving in the dark. She could feel it. She could not see the shape of it yet, but she knew it was there. She went to Nolan's desk. She was not sure why. She went the way you go toward things in a dream. Not because you decided to, because something pulled you. Nolan had been a meticulous man. An engineer's mind in a gardener's body, she always said. He kept records of everything. Bills, correspondence, notes to himself in his careful, even handwriting. She had not opened his desk since the funeral. It had felt too soon, too much like reaching into a place that was still his. But that evening, she opened it. She was not looking for anything specific. She told herself she was just organizing. just beginning the slow process of going through his things. The notebook was in the second drawer on the right. It was a plain composition book, black cover, the kind you buy in packs of 3 at the drugstore. Nolan had used notebooks like this for everything. She had given them to him every Christmas for years, as a small joke between them. One perfect notebook among the real gifts. And he had always laughed and said he needed another one. She opened it. Most of it was what she expected. Household records, maintenance notes, lists of things to buy and things to fix. His handwriting, steady and careful, covering page after page with the ordinary accounting of a life. And then she reached a page dated 14 months ago. She read it once. Then she read it again. The entry was short, 7 lines. Nolan's handwriting. The same as always, but with something different underneath it. A weight, a deliberateness. As if he had chosen every word carefully. He had written, "Walter came by again today. 3rd time asking about the house. Said he was just curious about the market. I know my son. He was not just curious. I have been thinking about this for some time. I am going to make some calls next week. Evelyn should not have to face this alone." Evelyn sat very still. Outside, the sun was going down behind the trees Nolan had planted. The garden was going golden in the late light. A bird she did not know the name of was singing somewhere in the branches. She read the entry a 3rd time he had known. Months before he died, while he was still well enough to go to the desk and open the notebook and write in his careful handwriting, Nolan had known. He had seen what she was only beginning to see now, and he had not told her, not because he wanted to keep it from her, but because he knew she would worry, and because he had decided to do something about it himself. He had said he was going to make some calls. She did not know yet what calls he had made. She did not know yet what he had set in motion. She only knew that she was sitting in the chair he had sat in, reading the words he had written, and she did not feel alone. She felt, in a way she could not explain, and would not try to, that he was still here. Not in the room, not in any way she could point to, but somewhere close, somewhere in the space between what she knew and what she was about to find out. She closed the notebook carefully, held it in her lap for a long moment. Then she opened the drawer again and placed it back exactly where she had found it. She was not ready to share it yet, not with anyone. Some things, she had learned, were meant to sit with, to be understood slowly, the way you understand a long marriage. Not all at once, but over time, in layers, each one revealing something the one before had hidden. She went to bed that night earlier than usual. She lay in the dark in the bed that was too large now, in the room that still smelled faintly of him. And she stared at the ceiling. She was not afraid. That surprised her, given what she was beginning to understand, given the shape of what was moving in the dark. She thought she should be afraid. But she was not. She felt something else. Something quieter than fear and steadier than courage. Something she did not have a word for. A sense that the ground beneath her was more solid than it appeared. That whatever was coming, she would not face it the way they expected her to face it. They expected the woman they thought she was. The soft one, the gentle one. The one who had spent 44 years being someone's wife, and before that someone's daughter, and before that someone's student, always in relation to someone else. Always defined by the caring and the giving, and the holding together. They did not know the woman who had survived 28 years of 3rd grade classrooms and come out the other side with the ability to read a room in 3 seconds flat. They did not know that the stillness they mistook for softness was actually something else entirely. They did not know her. And that, Evelyn thought, as she closed her eyes in the dark, was the only advantage she needed. She did not ask for what happened next. She did not plan it. It came the way the important things always came, quietly, from a direction she was not looking. Sunday morning church. The same church she and Nolan had attended for 31 years. The same wooden pews, the same light through the same windows, the same voice of Reverend Aldous Doyle filling the space, the way it always had, steady and unhurried, and full of something that felt like genuine belief. She had not been back since the funeral. She had stayed away not from lack of faith, but from the exhaustion of being looked at with sad eyes, of being the widow in the front pew, of accepting condolences from people who meant well but could not know. But that Sunday morning, something made her go. She could not explain it. She woke up and she knew she was going. The way you sometimes know things before you think them. She got dressed. She drove the 12 minutes to the church. She sat in the third row on the left, which was not their usual pew but felt right that morning. Reverend Doyle was 72 years old and had been behind that pulpit for longer than some of his congregation had been alive. He was a tall man, thin in the way of men who forgot to eat when they were thinking, with white hair and hands that had held the hands of the dying and the newborn with equal steadiness. After the service, people gathered the way they always did. Small groups, low voices, the comfortable ritual of people who had known each other long enough to not need much ceremony. Evelyn was getting her coat when Reverend Doyle appeared beside her. He did not say much. That was his way. He had never been a man who used more words than a moment needed. He reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and took out a small folded piece of paper. He held it out to her. "I do not entirely know why I am giving you this today," he said. "I have been carrying it for a week, meant to give it to someone else, and then did not. This morning I woke up thinking about you." She took the paper, unfolded it. A name. A phone number. A note in his handwriting. Estate attorney. Good woman. Honest. She looked up at him. He shrugged, in the way of a man who had learned not to argue with the things he did not understand. "I do not know," he said simply. "It just felt like it belonged with you." She folded the paper carefully and put it in her coat pocket. On the drive home, she held the steering wheel and watched the road and felt the paper in her pocket like a small warm weight, like something placed there by hands she could not see. She thought about Nolan's notebook, about the entry from 14 months ago, about the calls he had said he was going to make. She thought about her sister's half-second pause. She thought about Walter's voice, warm and careful, circling always back to the same subjects. She did not know yet how all of it connected. She only knew that it did, that there was a thread running through all of it, thin and nearly invisible, but there, and that someone or something had been making sure she had what she needed to follow it. She pulled into the driveway, Saturday, for a moment with the engine off. Then she took the paper from her pocket, went inside, and picked up the phone. The attorney's name was Constance Whibley. She had an office above a dry cleaning shop on Mercer Street, which was not where Evelyn had expected to find someone Reverend Doyle called a good woman and honest. She had expected marble. She had expected a receptionist with a headset and a waiting room with magazines. Nobody reads. What she got was a narrow staircase, a door with frosted glass, and a woman of 59 who stood up from behind a desk covered in papers and extended a hand like she had been waiting for Evelyn specifically. "Mrs. Marsh," Constance said. "Sit down, tell me everything." So Evelyn did. She told her about Walter's calls, the pattern of them, the warmth that always circled back to the same questions. She told her about Gloria's visits, and the half-second pause that had said more than an hour of conversation. She told her about the notebook, about Nolan's 7 careful lines dated 14 months ago. Constance listened without interrupting. She had the quality of someone who had learned that silence pulled more truth out of people than questions did. When Evelyn finished, Constance looked at her for a moment. "Do you have the notebook?" "Yes." "Can you bring it to me?" "Yes." "Good." Constance made a note. "Mrs. Marsh, I want you to do something that is going to feel very unnatural." Evelyn waited. "I want you to go home and act like nothing has changed. Do not confront anyone. Do not ask questions that let them know you are asking questions. Do not change your routine." Evelyn almost smiled. "You want me to let them keep going?" "I want you to let them finish," Constance said. "There is a difference." Evelyn understood the difference completely. She drove home in the late afternoon light and felt something she had not felt in weeks. Not peace exactly, something more like readiness. The feeling of a woman who has been sitting in the dark and has finally found the switch, who has not turned it on yet, who is choosing the right moment. She made dinner for one. She watered Nolan's garden. She went to bed at her usual time. And the next morning, when Walter called, she answered on the second ring. "Walter, how lovely. I was just thinking about you." She was not thinking about him, but she said it the way she had learned to say the necessary things, warmly, without a flicker. That was Tuesday. By Thursday, it had started. She heard it first from Marian Helbert, her neighbor of 22 years, who came over to return a casserole dish and stayed for 40 minutes, because Marian had never in her life returned anything without staying for 40 minutes. Marian sat at the kitchen table and stirred her coffee and said, in the careful voice of someone delivering bad news kindly, "Evelyn, honey, I do not know if you have heard what people are saying." Evelyn had not heard, or rather, she had suspected. But she let Marian tell her. Walter had been talking, not to everyone, just to the right people, the ones who talked to other people. He had mentioned with appropriate concern in his voice that his mother had been having some trouble, forgetting things, getting confused, that he was worried about her living alone, that he was trying to figure out the best way to help her. He had mentioned the time she forgot the name of Patrice's sister at Easter 2 years ago. He had mentioned the afternoon she left the stove on. He had mentioned the drive last November when she took the wrong exit and ended up 20 minutes out of her way. Each of these things had happened. All of them were true. None of them meant what Walter was implying they meant. But that was the art of it, was not it? You did not need to lie. You just needed to select, to arrange, to let people draw the conclusion you had pointed them toward without ever quite saying it yourself. Marian was looking at her with worried eyes. Evelyn reached across the table and patted her hand. "Marian," she said, "thank you for telling me. You are a good friend inside." Inside was a different story. Inside was, oh, so that is the angle. Not the paperwork angle. Not the house angle. Those were the goal, this was the road to get there. Build the picture first. A woman who forgets things. A woman who gets confused. A woman who, maybe, should not be trusted to manage her own affairs, Evelyn. Evelyn, who taught 3rd grade for 28 years and never once lost a child on a field trip. Evelyn, who remembered every student's birthday for the first 3 years after retirement and had to actively work to let herself forget because the list was getting long. That Evelyn. She kept her face exactly as it was, warm. She wrote it in the small notebook she had started keeping in the kitchen drawer. Not Nolan's notebook, her own. Because if Walter was collecting evidence against her, then she was collecting evidence against Walter, and she had been at this longer than he had. The following week, Patrice came for lunch. This was new. in 41 years of Walter being married to Patrice. Patrice had come for lunch alone exactly twice, both times because she needed something. She came in with flowers, yellow ones, sunflowers, which Evelyn did not particularly like but accepted with a smile and put in a vase on the counter. They ate the soup Evelyn had made. They talked about Patrice's sister's new house. They talked about the grandchildren, 2 of them, 7 and 9, whom Evelyn loved in the simple, uncomplicated way you love children who have not yet had time to disappoint you. Then Patrice set down her spoon, and here it came. Evelyn could feel it. The way you can feel a change in weather before the clouds appear. "Evelyn," Patrice said, "I have been wanting to talk to you about something, and I hope you will take it in the spirit it is meant." That sentence. That specific sentence, in Evelyn's experience, nothing good had ever followed those words. "I hope you will take it in the spirit it is meant" was the verbal equivalent of "brace yourself." Patrice's voice was gentle. Her hands were folded on the table. She looked like a woman who had rehearsed this. She talked about the past. She talked about 15 years ago when Evelyn had made a financial mistake, a bad investment, the kind that happens when you trust the wrong person with money you worked hard to save. Walter had helped then, had stepped in, had sorted it out. Patrice did not say Evelyn owed them for that. She did not have to. The implication was in the architecture of the sentence, the way she built up to it and then stopped just short. What she said instead was, "We just want to make sure you are protected, Evelyn." The way Walter protected you then. Evelyn looked at the sunflowers in the vase on her counter. She thought about Nolan. About 31 years of Sunday mornings when he brought her coffee before she was fully awake. About the way he used to stand at the kitchen sink after dinner, washing up, and hum to himself without knowing he was doing it. About how he had never, in 44 years, once brought up something he had done for her to use as a reason she should do something for him. Not once, because that was not what love did. Love gave and forgot it had given. Love helped and moved on. Love did not keep a ledger. What Patrice was describing was not love. It had the shape of love, the vocabulary of love. But underneath it was something else entirely, something that kept receipts. "Patrice," Evelyn said, "that was a hard time. I have always been grateful for Walter's help." She said it simply, without edge, without anything that could be used against her. Patrice smiled, satisfied. She left an hour later with another set of carefully arranged suggestions about the house and the finances that Evelyn received with warmth and promised to think about. She stood at the door and watched Patrice's car pull away and thought, "I know what you are doing. I have known what you are doing. And I am not the woman you think I am." She went inside and wrote the date and the details in her notebook. The page was getting full. Sunday came again. Evelyn went back to church, not because she felt she had to, because she wanted to. Because there was something she needed that the house could not give her. A particular kind of stillness, the kind that came from sitting in a space where people had been bringing their heaviest things for generations and leaving lighter. She sat in the 3rd row on the left again. Reverend Doyle preached about patience, about the difference between waiting and surrendering, about how the two looked identical from the outside and could not have been more different from the inside. She sat very still and felt the words land. After the service, she stayed in her pew while the church emptied around her. She sat with her hands folded in her lap and looked at the light coming through the window above the altar. Nolan had loved that window. He had said once that it was the only piece of art he had ever understood immediately, without having to think about it. She missed him in a way that was no longer sharp. It had softened into something that was almost like a presence, like he was somewhere in the room. Not close enough to touch, but not gone. She thought about what Reverend Doyle had said about waiting. She was waiting, she knew that. She was collecting and watching and being still and trusting that the moment to act would make itself known the way the important moments always did. Not by announcement, by a quality of rightness that was unmistakable once you had learned what it felt like. She just had to trust it, which was easy to say in church, in the morning, in the particular piece of that light through that window. It was harder the following Tuesday when Walter called, and his voice was different, still warm, still careful. But underneath the warmth, something tighter. Something that suggested the patience was starting to fray, that the timeline he had in mind was not being met. He had decided to organize a family meeting, not a confrontation. He did not use that word. He called it a chance for everyone to get together and talk about how they could support her. He made it sound like a gift, an act of collective love. He was going to invite Gloria, two cousins Evelyn barely spoke to anymore, a neighbor who had apparently become friendlier with Walter than Evelyn had realized. He said, "Mom, we just want to make sure you have everything you need." He said it the way people say things they have practiced. She said, "Walter, that is so thoughtful. You tell me when and I will be there." She hung up. Saturday. Did not move for approximately 90 seconds. A family meeting. With selected people. With paperwork. She was certain Patrice would see to the paperwork. There would be something to sign. Something that would sound reasonable in the moment, in a room full of people who were all nodding, in the face of a woman who was 67 and a widow, and had taken a wrong exit last November. She stood up, went to the kitchen, put the kettle on. Thought 4 days ago I sat in Constance Wibley's office above the dry cleaning shop and gave her Nolan's notebook. Thought. 3 days ago, Constance called and said she was looking into something and would need a few more days. Thought. I need to call Constance. She called Constance. Constance answered on the first ring, which was either good or very good. With Constance, it was hard to tell the difference because her voice maintained the same even quality, whether she was telling you good news or complicated news. "Mrs. Marsh, I was about to call you. What did you find?" A pause, brief, professional. "Nolan made some calls," Constance said. 8 months before he died. Evelyn set down her teacup. He contacted an estate attorney in Nashville, independent. Someone Walter would have had no connection to. Another pause. He was thorough, your husband. He had questions about how to structure things, how to make sure certain arrangements were protected regardless of what happened after. Evelyn stood very still in her kitchen in the late afternoon light. "Constance," she said, "what are you telling me?" "I am telling you," Constance said carefully, "that I think your husband may have left you something more than a notebook." Outside in Nolan's garden, the last of the October roses were still holding on just barely. Stubborn the way things are, when they are not quite ready to let go. Evelyn looked at them through the window. She thought. He knew. She thought. He always knew. She thought, even at the end. Even when he was tired and sick and going slowly the way he went. He was still thinking about me. She did not cry. She had cried enough in the 3 weeks after the funeral to last her a season. What she felt now was different. Something quieter. Something that settled into the chest and stayed there. She said, "What do I need to do?" Constance said. "For now, go to that family meeting. Let them say what they came to say. Do not sign anything. Do not agree to anything." And then Constance said, "Let me do the rest." Evelyn said she would. She hung up and stood in her kitchen for a long time. She thought about a classroom full of 8-year-olds. The ones who had tested her, and the ones who had broken her heart a little, and the ones who had made the whole thing worth it. And she thought about what she had told them every single year on the first day of school. She had told them, "The bravest thing you will ever do is stay quiet when everyone expects you to react. Because anyone can react. It takes something else entirely to wait." She had told that to children for 28 years. Now she was going to live it. The family meeting was on Saturday, 4 days away. She spent those 4 days doing exactly what she had been doing. She watered the garden. She went to the grocery store. She called Gloria once, a short friendly call that gave nothing away, and listened to her sister's voice for signs of what was underneath it. What she heard was guilt, quiet and persistent, like a hum, just below the range of normal conversation. Gloria was not a bad person. Evelyn had always known that. Bad people were simple. Gloria was complicated. Gloria was a woman who had made a choice she had not fully understood the weight of until she was already carrying it. Saturday morning, Evelyn got up early, made coffee, sat her day in Nolan's chair at the kitchen table, which she had started doing in the past few weeks. Not to be close to him exactly, just because the chair faced the garden, and in the morning light, the garden was the most honest thing she knew. She got dressed carefully, not formally, but with intention. The blue cardigan Nolan had always liked, the small pearl earrings she had worn on their first date and kept ever since, because some things you kept not for the memory but for what they meant about who you were. She looked at herself in the mirror, 67 years old, white hair, hands that had graded papers and pulled weeds and held her husband's hand at the end. Eyes that had seen most of what there was to see and were not. Whatever Walter believed, done seeing, she thought. They are expecting the woman I was. She thought. They have no idea who walked in the door. She picked up her keys. She drove to Walter's house, and the whole way there, the paper with Constance Whibley's number was folded in her coat pocket, small and warm and certain, like something placed there by hands she still could not see, but trusted completely. Walter's house smelled like candles, the expensive kind, the kind you light when you want a room to feel a certain way, warm, welcoming, like nothing is wrong. Evelyn noticed it the moment she stepped through the door. She noticed everything. That was the thing about walking into a room where people had prepared for you. They prepared the wrong things. They lit candles and arranged chairs and made sure there was coffee. What they forgot was that a woman who had spent 28 years reading 8-year-olds could walk into any room and know within 60 seconds exactly what was happening beneath the surface of it. Gloria was already there, sitting on the couch with her hands in her lap, not relaxed, contained. The way a person sits when they are holding themselves together by concentration alone. 2 cousins Evelyn had not seen in 4 years sat near the window. They had the slightly uncomfortable look of people who had been told they were coming to a family gathering and were only now beginning to suspect it was something else. Patrice moved through the room with the efficiency of a woman executing a plan. Coffee, cookies on a plate. Small talk delivered with precision. Walter stood near the fireplace. He smiled when Evelyn came in. That smile, the warm one. The one that had fooled her for years, because she had wanted it to be real. Because he was her son. Because you look at your child and you see the baby first. Always the baby first. And then sometimes, if you are unlucky, you see what the baby became. Mom. He crossed the room and hugged her. She hugged him back, because she was not here to show her hand. Not yet. Not for anything. She sat in the chair they had placed for her. She understood the geometry of it. You seat the person you want to influence at the center so that everywhere they look, they see faces that are with you. Walter had thought of everything. Everything except what was in Constance Whibley's filing cabinet on Mercer Street. The meeting began the way Walter had written it to begin. Gently, carefully, he talked about family, about how much everyone loved her, about how Nolan's passing had been hard on all of them, and how they wanted to make sure she was supported. The cousins nodded. They had been briefed. Gloria looked at the carpet. Then Walter moved to the next part, still gentle, still careful. He talked about how the house was a lot to manage alone, how the finances could get complicated, how he had been doing some research just out of love, just because he wanted to help, and he thought it might make sense for him to take over some of the administrative responsibilities. He used the word administrative. Evelyn thought, administrative. Yes, that is one word for it. Patrice appeared with a folder. Of course, there was a folder. Evelyn looked at the folder the way you look at something you already knew was coming. Walter said, "It is just a document that gives me the ability to help you manage things. Nothing changes. You still own everything. I just have the authority to act on your behalf when you need it. Power of attorney, wrapped in the language of assistance." Evelyn looked at the folder, then at Walter, then at the cousins who were nodding like they understood what they were nodding at, then at Patrice, who had sat down and was watching with the focused attention of someone watching an investment. Then she looked at Gloria. Gloria was still looking at the carpet, but her hands had tightened in her lap, the knuckles slightly white. The hands of a woman who was sitting in the middle of something she had agreed to and was no longer sure she could keep agreeing to. Evelyn recognized that. She had seen it in classrooms for decades. The child who went along with something and then had to sit with the weight of having gone along. Who wanted to take it back but did not know how. Walter held out a pen. He was still smiling. And Evelyn looked at the pen and thought about Nolan. About 7 lines in a composition notebook. About a phone call made 8 months before the end to an attorney in Nashville that Walter knew nothing about. About Constance Whibley saying, "I think your husband may have left you something more than a notebook." She thought about a piece of paper in a coat pocket and an invisible hand in 3 weeks of sitting still while the trap finished building itself. She said, "Walter, this is so thoughtful." She said it exactly the way she had been saying things for weeks. Warm, grateful, without a flicker. "But I have already spoken to an attorney, and I think I would like her to look at this before I sign anything." The room changed, not loudly, not dramatically, just a shift, like when the temperature drops and you feel it before you see any evidence of it. Walter's smile stayed on his face, but something behind it went very still. "Mom," he said, "you do not need an attorney for this. It is just paperwork." "I know," Evelyn said. "I like paperwork to have an extra pair of eyes on it. Your father taught me that. Using Nolan's name in that moment was not an accident." Walter looked at Patrice. A quick look. The kind that lasts less than a second and says an entire paragraph. Patrice said, "Of course, Evelyn, whatever makes you comfortable." But her voice had changed too. The warmth was still there, but it was working harder now. Warmth that has to work is not warmth. It is performance. "Thank you," Evelyn said. She picked up her coffee, took a sip, set it back down, and waited. What happened next was not something she could have engineered. It was not something Constance could have arranged. It was not something that came from strategy or preparation or anything that could be planned. It came from Gloria. Gloria, who had been looking at the carpet for the better part of an hour. Gloria, who had agreed to be here because Walter had told her this was the right thing, and she had wanted to believe him because believing him was easier than the alternative. Gloria, who had known since February, 8 months. She had known, and she had chosen silence because Walter had been very clear about what silence was worth and what speaking up would cost. There is a weight to knowing something and not saying it. And the longer you carry it, the heavier it gets, until one day you are sitting in a room watching your sister be handed a pen and you simply cannot carry it one more second. Walter, she said. Her voice was unsteady. His expression did not change visibly, but something in the quality of his stillness changed. The stillness of a man recalculating. Gloria, he said, gentle warning. I cannot, Gloria said again. She turned to Evelyn. Evelyn, she stopped, pressed her lips together, tried again. Evelyn, I have known since February. Walter told me about the plan. He said if I stayed quiet, there would be something for me too. He said it was for your own good. She paused. I told myself, it was for your own good because it was easier than telling myself what it actually was. The cousins looked at each other. Patrice looked at Walter. Walter looked at Gloria with an expression that was no longer warm, no longer careful. Something harder underneath. Something that had been underneath the whole time. Waiting, Gloria, he said, you need to think very carefully. I have been thinking carefully for 8 months. Gloria said. I am done thinking carefully. She looked at Evelyn. Her eyes were wet. Her hands were still shaking, but she kept looking at her sister, and Evelyn looked back at her. And in that look passed something that did not need words. Something that 2 women who had grown up in the same house and shared the same bathroom and known each other for 64 years did not need to translate. I know, Evelyn's eyes said. I know why you did it. I know you. Gloria's eyes said, I am sorry. I am so sorry. Evelyn gave the smallest nod. So small, no one else in the room would have caught it. It was enough. Walter started talking. He talked the way people talk when the ground is moving under them, and they are trying to find something solid, he explained. He reframed. He used different words for the same things. He talked about good intentions and concerns and the complexity of estate management and how Gloria was mischaracterizing a situation she did not fully understand. The cousins watched him. They were not nodding anymore. The more he talked, the worse it got. This was the thing about a man who was very good at constructing a narrative. When the narrative started coming apart, he kept constructing, kept adding, kept explaining, and each explanation created a new surface that could be compared against what Gloria had just said, against what the room now knew. He was building a case against himself with every sentence. Evelyn sat quietly. She did not interrupt. She did not argue. She did not say a single word that could be used against her later. She simply let him talk and thought about what Constance had told her 3 days ago. She thought about it clearly and completely, sitting in that chair in the center of the room while Walter's voice filled the space around her. She already knew everything Constance was about to present. She had known for 3 days, and she had carried it the way Nolan had always carried the hard things, quietly, without telling a soul. And now she sat in Walter's living room and listened to Walter explain and waited. She did not have to wait long. That morning, before she left the house, she had sent Constance a single text. Just the address and the time, 2 of the clock. Constance had replied with 1 word, confirmed. When the doorbell rang, Walter stopped mid-sentence. Patrice opened the door. Constance Whibley was 59 years old and wore the expression of a woman who had walked into many rooms exactly like this one. She carried a briefcase. She looked at Patrice with professional pleasantness. Good afternoon, "I am Mrs. Marsh's attorney." She came in, set her briefcase on the coffee table, did not sit down, looked at Walter with the particular look of a professional who has already read everything there is to read and is now simply confirming what she knows. "Mr. Marsh," she said, "I think we should talk about your father's will." Walter's face in that moment, she would remember it. Not with satisfaction, not quite, but she would remember it. The way the warmth finally went out completely, the way the calculation stopped because there was nothing left to calculate. The way a man looks when he realizes that the plan he spent months constructing was built on ground that was never as solid as he thought. Constance opened the briefcase. She placed documents on the table. Edmund Farr's contact information, a certified copy of the second will, the dated records from the Nashville office, Nolan's original 7-line notebook entry photographed and attached. She said, "Your father began this process 8 months before he died. He was thorough, he was deliberate, and he was very clear about his intentions." Walter looked at the documents, looked at Patrice. Patrice was looking at the documents too, with the expression of someone watching a structure they designed collapse from the inside. The cousins had stopped pretending to understand what was happening. They sat very still. Walter said, "I do not understand how." It was not a legal question. It was not a strategic question. It was the question of a man who had believed he understood the situation completely, and was discovering he had understood almost none of it. Constance said, "Your father understood it." And that was all that needed to be said. Evelyn stood up. She did it quietly, without announcement. She picked up her purse. She looked at Walter and felt something she had not expected to feel. Not anger, not satisfaction, not the complicated grief of a mother looking at a child who had disappointed her beyond recovery. She felt something closer to sorrow, because he was still her son. He had still been the baby first. He had still been the boy who came to her with scraped knees, and the teenager who had needed her in ways he would never admit, and the young man who had stood at his father's hospital bedside and cried in the hallway where he thought no one could see. That was all still true, and this was also true. Both things could be true. She had learned that from a long life. The world was full of people who were more than one thing at once. The tragedy was not that Walter was complicated. The tragedy was the choice he had made when the complication came to a point. She looked at him for a long moment. She said, "Your father loved you. I want you to know that. Whatever happens next, he loved you." Walter did not say anything. His face did something complicated that she did not stay to observe. She turned and looked at Gloria. Gloria had been crying silently for the last 10 minutes. The quiet kind of crying that does not ask for attention. That simply happens because the body has run out of ways to contain something. Evelyn walked to her sister. She sat down next to her on the couch. She took Gloria's hand. Gloria said, "Evelyn, I know," Evelyn said. "I should have. I know. I was scared. I know that too." Gloria pressed her lips together, tried to compose herself, failed. Composed herself anyway. Evelyn held her hand and did not let go. She thought about what fear did to people, how it moved through a family like weather. How Walter had been afraid, probably underneath everything. Afraid of debt, afraid of failure, afraid of the particular shame of a man who has not become what he believed he would, and how that fear had curdled into something he had dressed up as strategy, and how Gloria had been afraid of being left out, of being alone, of the particular loneliness of the sibling who is not chosen, not included, not enough. Fear was the architecture of the whole thing, from the first phone call to the folder on the table. All of it was fear wearing the clothes of control. She was not afraid. She had not been afraid. She realized, since the morning she sat at the kitchen table and heard Nolan's voice in her memory, saying the things he had always said. Go still. Listen. The answer comes. The answer had come, not from her, not from strategy, not from anything she had done except stay quiet and trust the ground beneath her feet, even when she could not see it. She stayed at Gloria's side until Constance had finished what needed to be finished, until the cousins had quietly and somewhat awkwardly taken their leave, until Patrice had gone to another room and Walter was standing near the fireplace, looking at a floor that had nothing to show him. Then Evelyn stood up. She squeezed Gloria's hand one last time. She said, "Come for dinner this week." Gloria looked at her. "After everything, after all of it." "Come for dinner," Evelyn said. She picked up her coat. She walked to the door. She did not look back at Walter, not because she was finished with him in the permanent way, not because the door was closed on what might eventually be possible between a mother and a son on the other side of a long reckoning, but because this moment was not the moment for that. That was a conversation for another day, a different room, when the dust had settled into something that could be stood on. Today, she simply left. She drove home in the late afternoon, Tennessee in October, the light doing the particular thing it did at this time of year in this part of the country, going gold and long and sideways through the trees so that everything looked illuminated from inside, like the world was lit by something other than the sun. She pulled into the driveway Saturday for a moment with the engine off. The garden was there, Nolan's roses holding on in the October cold, stubborn and faintly pink against the darker green. She thought about him. Not with grief this time, or not only with grief, with something that had more room in it, something that could hold the grief and also hold the other things. The gratitude, the wonder of it, that a man in the last months of his life, sick and tired and facing the thing no one faces without fear, had used some of his remaining energy to sit down with an attorney in Nashville and make sure she would be all right. He had not told her, because he knew she would worry, because he wanted her to live those last months with him fully, not with the shadow of his planning over them. He had trusted her to find it. And she had. She got out of the car, walked to the garden, stood among his roses in the fading gold light. She was 67 years old. She was a widow. She had just walked out of a room where her son had tried to take from her what her husband had spent a lifetime building. And she was all right. More than all right. She was standing in a garden planted by hands she loved, in a house that was hers, with a life that was hers, and the knowledge that the invisible thing she had trusted was not invisible at all. It had a name. It was just a name she could not say with any single word. It was 44 years of Sunday mornings. It was 7 lines in a composition notebook. It was a piece of paper in a coat pocket handed over by a man who did not know why he was handing it. It was the particular quality of light through the church window that Nolan had said he understood immediately. It was everything that holds without being seen. She put her hand on one of the roses carefully, feeling the edge of a petal between her fingers. She said, out loud, to no one, and to the only person she was ever really talking to when she talked to no one, "You thought of everything." The garden was quiet. The light was going. And she stood there until it did.